Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, and London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. You know we love you in Africa, the Big C tribe, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free and the home of the brave on the beautiful. I think it's beautiful, November 21st, 2018, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, it was beautiful for that turkey up until last night when I was able to sneak him out of the pen and, got him all plucked and clean. I got him sitting in the brine all night long, Charlton, so he's ready to go in that oven in the morning. And I want to give thanks to my neighbor.
Yeah.
And hopefully he won't miss him.
Yeah, hopefully he won't miss him. Big C, it's all fair and love and war. We got to start putting a leash on those turkeys. Oftentimes people put a leash on a dog when it's not well trained. Them good old boys down south, we got to start putting leashes on those turkeys so Big C won't go shopping in their backyard. A lot of stuff going on in the sports universe, Big C. We have a number one fallen actually in the world of college basketball. We have a lot of teams that got to pay attention to that in the NCAA tournament, because just because you're ranked number one doesn't mean you're going to finish number one. We have an NBA schedule tonight, as well as some quarterback stuff going on in the NFL. It's all fair and love and war. I do want to say today's segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. Big C's raining cats and dogs. And when I do say cats and dogs, I mean cats and dogs. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's raining cats and dogs on our democracy also.
Yeah.
We have the president attacking the judicial system now in America, saying that they're doing things wrong.
Wow.
I mean, here's a guy, I guess he's looking in the mirror whenever he does that.
Yep.
But he wanted to attack the Ninth Circuit in California for the judge putting a ban on his asylum ability coming into the U.S.
Yeah.
But not only that today, Charlton, he attacked the Supreme Court today, Chief Justice John Roberts.
Really?
Stating that these judges are all Obama appointees. And Chief Justice responded, they're not representative of any president. They're not Obama appointees. They're not Bush appointees.
Yeah.
They're not Clinton appointees. They're American justices. And they give everyone an equal look at the law, Charlton.
Yeah.
But the president is so used to his buddies in these other countries, in Russia and Syria and Philippines, having dictatorships and even in Saudi Arabia, that they can control what the justice system says, Charlton.
Yeah.
And for him to go and attack the Supreme Court, and I don't really know how knowledgeable or intelligent this president is. I know he's leading the country. But does he not realize if there's an impeachment proceeding, who oversees the impeachment proceeding? It's the Supreme Justice of the United States.
Yeah.
Chief Justice Roberts, the same man that he attacked and said he was unintelligent.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's always good to have a good civics lesson. People got to understand it's so important that we just stay abreast of it. I know everybody has their own thoughts, and I had a friend of mine that was asking me about politics and just who I'm going to vote for and who I voted for, and I just said I voted for who was in my best interest, Big C. It doesn't matter anyone's opinion. They can vote who they want to vote for. But I also think about today being Thanksgiving, and I think about all the wonderful people of this great country and a lot of people in California that are hurting, and they need help. They need, prayers are great, but they need infrastructure, they need money, they need food. And I hope that people can reach out either to the Red Cross or whatever. But POTUS did say it's a California firefighters, the forest rangers' fault that we're having these issues out here. But we know it's not that. It's nothing more sinister than that. But I do want to get on one thing. I want to finish it up from yesterday's conversation. I told you I work around AAU kids. These kids are 14 to 18, and they're playing sports. They're bringing me politics. Because I told you, we talked about the thing yesterday, Big C, with cannabis. And last night on CNN, I see former Speaker of the House, John Boehner, on a commercial for cannabis. And they're telling people, I think mistakenly, that they can get rich. It's the new gold mine in California. It's a $10 billion industry. But if anyone were to Google getting into that industry, Big C is still a federal crime. Okay, it's a federal crime. Why is Boehner, and I'm not saying he spoke, but his face was used and they showed pictures of him. They didn't sue them and say take it down. This is on CNN News. Why are people ignorant to the fact if you break a federal crime, the state won't save you, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you got to look at that. That's a two-level scenario. What they're talking about is eliminating the street salesmen, the people that are selling without license. They are not going to attack licensed facilities because they are tax-paying entities, and they pay a tax base of 25% of what they sell. So when they're talking about that, they're talking about the multimillionaires investing in that, Charlton.
Yeah.
Just the layman person on the street, that's what they're curtailing. They're curtailing the backyard grower, Charlton, who's saying, well, I'm going to, sell a little bit of it and make me some money and get in another income bracket.
Yeah.
Those are the things when you talk about the federals getting involved. I don't know if they have the jurisdiction. They may. I don't know if they do. Whether they can go in and stop a legalized facility that are set up in California that are licensed by the state.
Yeah.
The feds are a little leery about going into those type of scenarios, something, because it opens up a war box even beyond the cannabis industry.
Yeah.
So when you see these advertisements on television, there's a reason why they're taking them. When you look at the states that have legalized cannabis, Charles, the legalization of anything that is done, it's trying to stop the illegal sales, those that don't generate tax revenue.
Yeah.
I look at the moonshine industry down here, Charles.
Yeah.
They're still chasing us because we don't pay taxes.
Yeah.
And we do a service for the public just like anybody else. We
Yeah.
make ours more affordable.
Yeah.
And it's fresher.
Yeah.
You don't have to sit there and age it for 12 years or some can.
Yeah.
We bottle it right away that day.
Yeah.
And so you get fresh alcohol. A lot of people like fresh alcohol.
Yeah.
It's just like in the marijuana industry, Charlton. The little man was actually pushed aside by the legalization of marijuana.
Yeah.
If you made it legal, what was wrong with it when it was illegal? It's still the same substance. That's the thing that people really don't look at. That legalized marijuana is the same marijuana that they were selling 2 decades ago that was illegal. It hasn't changed in any kind of way. But when mainstream economics saw that a lot of money could be made out of this, and people could be made millionaires by doing it legally, Charlton. That's what made it what it is today. And it's going to become legal nationwide within the next decade.
Yeah.
Because you just can't stop the ebb and flow of it.
Well,
it's up to each individual whether they want to use it. It's just like smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the vapor industry now, Charlton, how big the vapor industry has gotten. The FDA has stepped in saying you can't sell these vapor pens to anybody under 18 years of age now.
Right.
Because they understand the carcinogenics in that. Alcohol, Charlton, you have to be 21 years of age to buy that. There are many things in American society that should be illegal, but they are legal.
Yeah.
And so to hone in on one industry, saying that is the industry that's going to destroy America, Charlton, alcohol did that a long time ago. And when you think about all of these pharmaceutical companies that do what they do, and you look at this opioid crisis in America, everybody's turning their back on every other narcotic and ingestible thing that you can do because of the opiate epidemic, Charlton.
Right.
Because it's affecting white America. When you look at it, it affects white America. That's why you don't see it attacked like you have seen marijuana in the past.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. We went through that with Prohibition. My only challenge is when the young teenagers and even adults are approaching and saying this is what they want to do now. And I just think it's misguided for a lot of young people. It's going to be for corporations and companies that are in that. They get licensed for that.
You look at that, Charles, when you see a young person with a cigarette in their mouth.
Yeah.
Is that a misguided thing?
Yeah.
Or who are they supporting?
Yeah.
I mean, it's illegal for them to smoke. They're not old enough to buy them, but you see them in their mouth all the time. Do you see parents taking away from them? Do you see parents saying, hey, you're going to be, having everything taken away from you because you're using cigarettes, using a tobacco product?
Right.
I would rather have my child using a marijuana product than a tobacco product because overall health effects that they're going to get from that tobacco, Charlton, is long-lasting.
Yep, that's a very good point, too. There's always both sides of the issues. And in closing on that subject, because it's going to keep happening. They're talking about $10 billion. A lot of mainstream people are already into it. But my concern with it, Big C, is when the young, person of color thinks that they're going to do it, too. because they saw it on TV. But they got to understand, in the criminal justice system, it's never been played the same. And they can't do it like mainstream. Even talking to people trying to get licensed for that, there's a certain skin complexion that they look for that usually gets told yes in that industry, plus a lot of money. So I just
want. Well, Charlton, that's in everything, but you got to look at. You talked about getting the license, doing it legal.
Right.
That's the number one thing you have to look at. There's an illegal and an illegal way to do this, Charlton. So if you want to go the illegal track, yes, you put yourself in peril.
Right.
But if you go the legal track in it, Charlton, you have the backing of your state government that will defend you in that capacity. But if you want to do it illegally, just like with setting up a backroom gambling parlor, Charlton, there's casinos all over California where you are.
Yeah.
And in many other states. Those are licensed gambling institutions. When you have these people set up these street bookies, Charlton, in some back room in some building, just like we talked about the state of Pennsylvania legalizing gambling, and in 2019 expect to make $12 billion from the industry. But where the state of Nevada only did less than $5 billion in 2017, almost tripling what Nevada had done, Charlton, in 2 years is what they're going to do in Pennsylvania. So by doing that legally, it's going to take money out of the illegal gambling sector, Charlton.
Yeah.
It's going to hurt those people. That's what the thing on the federal level. The federal is really more concerned about going after people that are not licensed. And that's in anything. That's even in this moonshine industry.
Yep.
They go after us down here that are not licensed, Charlton.
Yep.
Because we don't have that seal across the bottle saying federal, that we're paying our taxes on it. That's what they go after more than anything.
That's a very good point, Big C. It's always up in the air as things come and change. There's always going to be a pro and a plus side. Just people got to get educated on the topic. And speaking of California, and speaking of all the areas that are burned out, Big C, there's so much rain coming, and they're expecting it to rain. Today's Wednesday, it's going to rain on Thanksgiving. I think it's going to ease up on Friday. And so a lot of people right now who've had, as we talked about it before, they were wiped out by the fire, unfortunately. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with them. But now they have the mud and the mudslides coming. I don't know about you down south, but out here in California, when people are driving, some people, it just doesn't make sense. Some people drive as if it's 80 degrees and it's not raining. But when it rains, the roads are slick and your braking distance takes longer, no matter what kind of car you have. Do you have that same type of issue down south, or are people more used to it because it rains a lot more, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, rain comes here in the South on a more frequent basis. One of the things you look at with the rain when it starts falling in California, and I heard on some reports that they're expecting up to at least 6 inches of rain, Charlton, which is going to cause a lot more devastation even than the fires, because you think about Paradise, California, losing over 13,000 structures, Charlton.
Wow.
That's the devastation that goes on. So in the rain build up there in California, because it's been dry, you got all those surfaces that have that oil buildup and everything else, and that water creates that slick surface. And so here, people are more accustomed to driving in the rain. They have a tendency to slow down, Charlton, because it's a normal event that occurs here. It's not something that comes and goes. We go more than a week around here. We talk about drought if we don't get rain.
Yeah, the big drought that hit the South, I understand. We just hope that everybody stays safe in all this. And when there's thunder and light, like bells and whistles are going off, lots of services that are just being hampered, electricity going off. Even though I haven't heard thunder and light in a long time, but we are having a lot of that. Even just in daily driving. Want people please be safe, going for the holidays. I'm going to be traveling myself. I think they were showing pictures, Big C, coming out of LAX. I thought they were all leaving Randy's Donuts. The lines were so loud or so long. But when you look at LAX, people just trying to get in and out of town, that's a city, that's a beautiful city, but just transportation is really tough. Have you ever seen such bad traffic like you have in LA, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you think about LAX, and this is the busiest travel day of the year, Charlton, for Americans.
Yeah.
They're expecting about 1.5 million cars, not passengers, but 1.5 million cars to travel through LAX this weekend.
Yeah.
So, that's a lot of traffic, Charlton, people coming in, picking up, dropping off, just an immense amount of vehicles moving.
Yeah.
And so that's always going to create that backlog of people trying to get to their flights. And, I've flown through LAX many times, Charlton, coming to California, and it's never a fun adventure, even during normal travel times during the middle of the week.
Yeah.
Coming in there, less on a busy holiday like this.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. Just please be safe out there. Everybody's all fair in love and war. I do want to touch on something that happened in the world of college basketball, Big C, and we'll touch on a few sports. We're going to be off on Thanksgiving Day. Big C got a lot of turkeys to wrestle. Some of those are turkeys. They don't volunteer to be turkey dinner, Big C, so people don't know that when they go into the grocery store and they're already nicely packaged in a plastic bag. Big C, would you care to share your experience of what it's like to get a live turkey to become the meal, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you got to bait him a little bit. Toss a little grain down there on the ground.
Yeah.
And they appreciate that. All of a sudden, they raise up their head. And, I don't know if the head continues on up with them, but, all of a sudden, you got to drag him on down the road. And this is a big bird, y'all. So I put him in the gunny sack, got him down, dipped him in that hot water, and got all those feathers off of him and Charlton. Cleaned him out nice and good. I made up a nice brine. I want to let everybody know. A little sugar, little soy sauce, some rosemary, little olive oil, and some garlic. Put him in there, Charlton, let him sit in there for 24 hours. He'll be ready to go tomorrow.
Ready to go. Well, mine came in a plastic bag of this grocery store, but it's all fair and love and war. Big C, speaking of turkeys, those turkeys got knocked off in the Classic, Maui Classic over in Hawaii. You have Duke University. None of those players make any money. Chelsea make, about $10 million. And then you have Gonzaga. Coach Hughes, they play in the most dominant program really on the West Coast over the last maybe 7 to 8 years. Ironically, out of Spokane, Washington area. On the West Coast, the top football program and the top basketball program come from a city where you got to take about a 2-hour bus ride to get to a decent airport up in Spokane, Washington, Big C. And Gonzaga showing that they are number one when it comes to playing on the court, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you think about that, Charlton, you think of Pullman, Washington, where Washington State is. I believe they're ranked number 7 in the country.
Yep.
You got Gonzaga, who went into tonight in college basketball, ranked number 3, and knocked off the number 1 team, Duke.
Yep.
Now, this is the second time this season that the number 1 team in the country, Charlton, has been displaced. If you recall, first week of the season, Kansas, which was ranked number 1. They fell.
Yeah.
And now Duke is falling. And you think about all the sports writers and commentators out there that last week, Charlton, were talking about that Duke could beat Cleveland Cavaliers.
Right.
They proved tonight they can't even beat Gonzaga. So, if you can't beat a college team that's ranked beneath you, how are you going to go out and beat 15 professional players on a night, Charlton? And that conversation will always keep coming up because you got these young kids don't know how to play under adversity, and that was the thing with Duke tonight.
Right.
They were always used from playing from ahead. They weren't trailing. Gonzaga, a quality program, as you talked about with Mark Few, up there in Spokane, Washington, and have been in the running for NCAA titles, Charlton, for the past couple of years.
Yeah.
They've been a really solid program that for a long time ran under the radar, but they've made the NCAA tournament, I believe, 20 consecutive years.
Yeah.
And people realize that the program, you don't have to be on national television every night with an East Coast team, Charlton, to have great athletes. And Few and Gonzaga proved that tonight over in the Maui Classic. And if you go back to thinking about number 1 teams being knocked off in the Maui Classic, go back to Ralph Sampson and the University of Virginia. Back in the early 80s, Charlton, when they were ranked number 1 in the country, and Chaminade knocked them off. Now Gonzaga's a much better program than what Chaminade was, but going into Maui being number 1 is not an easy task, Charlton.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, Big C. And I think about the days of people talking about what college team was the best college team and who could beat whom. I still think back, they talk about the Fab Five and the great team from Michigan. I still think when you look at Jerry Tarkanian, the Running Rebels, the year that they won the national title, they tried to repeat and lost against Duke. I thought they had a lot of egregious fouls in that game. But I thought that was the best team, at least I had seen. I know that Georgetown team that had the great Patrick Ewing that blocked like 50,000 shots in the NCAA tournament. There are a lot of good teams over the years. Bobby Knight had some great Indiana teams. You go back to Wooden and those great UCLA teams from back in the day with the Walton, and just a lot of great programs. But is there one that stands out that makes you say that team could go in any era and compete with anybody for a national championship? We can't say that about this Duke program as we just got shown up, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you have to go back to the era of Lou Alcindor at UCLA.
Yeah.
That was the greatest program ever in college football, college basketball.
Yeah.
You got to think about it. He won 3 consecutive New York State titles in high school. Then he comes into UCLA, wins 3 consecutive titles at UCLA, Charlton, and he did not get a chance to play as a freshman.
Wow.
Freshmen were not allowed to play college basketball at that time. But what he did as a freshman team, Charlton, when they came in that freshman class, beat the defending national champions from the year before. You had to play a freshman schedule back in those days, so you played half the varsity schedule. But they dominated the defending national champions, Charlton, by around 20 points in his freshman year. So he and the UCLA team that he played with under Coach Wooden probably was the greatest basketball team of all time, Charlton. They lost the game of the century to the Houston Cougars down in the Astrodome
in Texas
back in '68 with Elvin Hayes.
Texas Justice.
but he had, Kareem had, Lou Alcindor at the time had an eye injury.
Yeah.
Which, hindered him. But, Houston only won by a bucket.
Yeah.
But they came back and they met in the tournament, Charlton. And there was no contest because UCLA dominated them by 30 points.
Yeah.
With a healthy Alcindor.
Yeah. And you think and that's great because as people talk about the Fab Five, they talk about the UNLV teams or the great Indiana teams, or even some of the great programs at Duke. You bring up Lou Alcindor. I think he has the most points in the history of NBA basketball. And going back to his team at UCLA, maybe being the best college basketball team ever. You stand by that, Big C? Your thoughts?
I stand by that. And I'm going to give a second best team, Charlton, to that second run at UCLA that was led by Walton, that had the 88 consecutive game streak, Charlton. You think about that. They had the streak broken and still came back and won the national championship. So when you think about what Coach Wooden did with these players, they were unselfish.
Yeah.
We don't get that now in college athletics, even professional athletics, Charlton. We get a lot of that me mentality. Look at me. Put the spotlight on me.
Yeah.
The only reason you knew who Alcindor was on that team, Charlton, because of his height. He didn't go out and try to outdo his teammates. He played within a system.
Yeah.
That's what made those programs so great. I love the UNLV team, Charlton, that won the national championship.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even their best team. The team that in 1977 that averaged 122 points a game was their best team, and they were knocked off by North Carolina, and there was no three-point shot in the game at that time.
Yeah, that's incredible that you can go back that far and just realize how dominant these programs have been over the years, and that you can pull them up like that makes a lot of sense. Just real quick on the top 10, and then we'll cover a few more things in college basketball. Duke, of course, knocked off today. Kansas came into the day ranked number 2. Gonzaga was ranked number 3. I think they should at least leapfrog Kansas if you knock off number 1. Then you have Virginia, Tennessee at number 5, Nevada at number 6. And I want to talk about the Nevada team because this is a team that reached almost the March Madness last year, the Final Four, and they lost to Loyola Chicago, which had their own meteoric rise. But usually when you think about a team from Nevada being the top team in the country, Big C, we just talked about those great UNLV teams down in Las Vegas under Jerry Tarkanian. So for Nevada to have the switch of power in the Silver State going from Las Vegas to Reno, that says a lot about the basketball being played in northern Nevada. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the landscape has changed. I mean, after Tarkanian had left UNLV, they brought in Raleigh Massimino, who had been at Villanova and won a national title, Charlton, but he wasn't able to rekindle that same type of success. And UNLV has been wandering out there in the land for a long time, Charlton, trying to find a coach that could do what Coach Tarkanian had done down there. He left UNLV and ended up at Fresno State and brought that program to prominence. But when you think about Nevada, they made the Elite Eight last year. They were eliminated by Loyola, I believe, down in Atlanta last year in the tournament.
Yeah.
But, a great run for that program. They've done a lot of great things. The coach there used to be the coach of the Sacramento Kings, and his name escapes me.
I think it's Musselman.
Yeah, Musselman. He coached in the NBA. And he's brought that toughness and tenacity to that program, Charlton, and got those young players to buy in. So when you can come from the NBA and go to the college game, Charlton, and get the young players to buy into your style and your influence. That means you're prepping guys for the next level, Charlton, and that's why that program's ranked in the top 10.
Very much so. Ranked ahead of number 7, North Carolina. Ranked ahead of number 8, Auburn. Break ahead of number 9, Michigan, and number 10, Kentucky. So a lot's going on in the sports universe. Love college basketball, even though I don't know who's playing Big Z, because players tend to be one and done, or they just want to do one and then get on to see if they can make it in the world of the NBA. Speaking of another sport, and again, on this great Thanksgiving Day, people be safe as you travel. We know everybody's trying to get out of town and go to their destinations. I want to jump to another sport, Big C. We have some great happenings in the world of NBA. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they get to say if they really appreciated what LeBron James did, or if they don't like it. You know, when you break up with something, it's hard to say, hey, we're gonna take the high road. And it's a business, obviously, but people still have feelings, and sometimes they think they own you, especially if you're an athlete, Big C, until you get fired. Give me your thoughts on the Lakers going to Cleveland. It's almost watching your ex-girlfriend come back in town, but she brings the boyfriend that helped her break your heart, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is going to be LeBron's second return to Cleveland with an opposing team. He did it years ago with the Cavaliers and
the Heat.
The Heat.
Yeah.
You know, the fans at that time were a little thinking about what had occurred. But I think this return this time, Charlton, that the fans will have an air of appreciation when you look at what occurred in LeBron leaving. He did what he promised that he would do, Charlton.
Yeah.
He brought a championship to Cleveland, something they hadn't had in 48 years. He delivered on that promise, Charlton.
Yeah.
And that's what he said originally when he came out of high school and joined the Cavaliers. So he delivered on his promise, and I think that everybody understands what LeBron did by leaving Cleveland.
Yeah.
You know, he fulfilled everything he could there socially and professionally. He opened up the Promise Academy, Charlton, for the young kids of the area. But he moved on. 15 years, you know, it's time to go. He was looking at the next phase of his life.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether he stayed in Cleveland, Charlton, or he left Cleveland, his career was going to eventually end there at some point, Charlton. Eventually, they'll erect a statue of LeBron outside that arena there in Cleveland, Charlton. Yeah. But, you know, athletes come and go. They don't belong to a city. They're loaned to a city.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And he spent his life in that area, and he's done so much, and he's meant so much. And for those who love LeBron, will appreciate LeBron going on doing the best that he can in the rest of his life, Charlton, athletically.
Yeah.
Just like anybody in any corporate American seat, when another CEO calls you and says, hey, I got a better position with more money for you,
yes.
Are you willing to move? You're going to do that.
Yeah.
So you can't always hold an athlete ransom because they decide to leave a city, Charlton. Most athletes leave cities without wanting to leave the city.
Yeah.
They're traded.
Yeah.
They're cut.
Yeah.
So you have to move because the owner wanted you to move.
Yeah.
LeBron and many other NBA players, Charlton, have had the luxury of moving to a city when you wanted to go.
Yeah.
But they're going to hold a tribute to LeBron tonight. They're going to have a video tribute of his accolades in that Cleveland area, Charlton,
yeah.
Which is a great thing. And I hope that these fans cheer him because he's still a part of them, Charlton. He's just changed area code.
That's a very good point, Big C. The game's already underway in Cleveland. Also, if we look at a couple of the games in the NBA, Indiana's at Charlotte, New Orleans at Philadelphia tonight, Toronto's at Atlanta, New York is at Boston. We talked about LA Lakers being at Cleveland, Phoenix at Chicago, Detroit's at Houston, Portland's at Milwaukee. That should be a fantastic game. Denver at Minnesota, Brooklyn's at Dallas. You have Memphis at San Antonio, Sacramento's at Utah, but Oklahoma City is at Golden State. They had a 10-game win streak snapped by the Sacramento Kings. Now they're at Golden State tonight at 7:30, and Golden State's lost 3 in a row. I think the first time ever under Coach Steve Kerr. What's going on in the land of vibranium? I know Steph Curry's a great player, but Durant's been the last 2 Finals MVPs. But without Steph Curry in there, their record's not nearly the same. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, we haven't played 20 NBA games this season. So when people want to say what's wrong with the Warriors, nothing's wrong with the Warriors. You got to look at the number of games that the Warriors have played over the last 5 seasons, Charlton.
Yeah.
They've played more games than any team in the NBA over the last 5 seasons. Only team that's close to them would be Cleveland.
Yeah.
And they don't have to worry about playing that many games this year.
Yeah, yep. That's a good point.
So when you think about a team being able to put it together, that's the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
When you lose 3 games, 4 games, Charlton, that's not the end of your season. they go on that 10-12 game winning streak, just like we talked about Oklahoma City being on a 10-game winning streak.
Yeah.
They won at 500.
Yep.
Everybody was saying, hey, OKC is going to struggle.
Right.
Next thing you know, they went on a 10-game winning streak, Charlton. Winning streaks cure all with any professional team, even a college team, Charlton. It seems like you're out of it. All of a sudden, you get in that hot streak, and all of a sudden, everything is okay.
Yeah.
But that's what athletics is all about, Charlton. Everything is good when you're winning.
Yeah.
There's a problem when you're not winning. So you try to find excuses to make a story instead of saying they were just soundly beaten.
Yep.
This tiff made them. You think about that argument, and it's been a week ago since that argument went on between Green and Durant.
Right.
At what point did it stop them from making three-point shots, Charlton? It was Durant and Green had the argument. Three other starters couldn't make a three-point shot.
Yep.
So everyone wants to look at that excuse. Well, this is, the sentiment within the team. No, it's not. If you have a cold streak, you have a cold streak. It happens.
Yeah.
With everybody.
Yep.
Football, basketball, baseball, hockey. You have sections where you can't score, where you can't get in the rhythm. You will find it. And when one of those nights come back and all of a sudden the Golden State Warriors drop 25 three-point shots, Charlton, they're going to forget that they lost 3 consecutive games.
Yeah, that's often, like you say, winning solves everything. I do want to say sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. For every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports, whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league. When you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you. I want to get on to some things that are happening also in the world of the sports universe, Big C. We have tomorrow the Atlanta Falcons go to New Orleans, take on the Saints, the hottest team in the NFL, and they have 9 consecutive wins. And the Falcons, they've been reeling. They've lost, I think, 2 heartbreaking games that they were right there, but they just didn't get it pulled off. And then when we look at what's happening for this Thanksgiving, this beautiful Thanksgiving holiday, it's beautiful except for those turkeys that read wrong. They misread those Animal Crossing signs down south, Big C, and they saw this good-looking chocolate man standing next to them. They thought they're going to curl up next to you, Big C. They thought, oh, he even brings a gunny sack to keep us warm. Hopefully we got a tease of the rig. But some great games coming up in NFL, Chicago at Detroit. Not a great game, but it's going to be great for Chicago, Washington, and Dallas. Always a game we love seeing on the weekend for Thanksgiving Day weekend. Atlanta at New Orleans. Let's touch first Chicago at Detroit. I think Trubisky is going to be out for that game, but this is a big game for Chicago. Detroit just knocked off Carolina. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, here's Chicago sitting at 6-3, Charlton, leading the division. This game would put a stronghold on the division if they're able to knock off Detroit. Now, they're going to be without Mr. Trubisky possibly in this game, Charlton, and Chase Daniels would get to start if that's the case. Chase Daniels been with Nagy in Kansas City as a backup quarterback to Alex Smith there, so he understands this offense completely, Charlton, and might be a little more efficient in operating this offense. He played for 6 years behind Drew Brees in New Orleans, so he's that same type of diminutive, quick-throwing quarterback that you would get in New Orleans. Chicago can't slip in this game, Charlton. They've been on a roll, and they need to prove that they can win. That defense is one of the top 3 defenses in the NFL.
Yeah.
They'll put a lot of pressure on Matthew Stafford, who's going to be without his top running back, Johnson, and his top receiver, Charlton. So Detroit is going to be down a few offensive weapons. So it's very important that Chicago plays a great defense and give a good game plan to Chase Daniels.
Got to do that for roll, Big C. The NFC East, it's been a while since a Thanksgiving game meant a lot for the NFC East, other than being traditional, seeing Dallas in there. But the Redskins at Dallas, if there's anything called good luck, Dallas has been finding it lately. They have the much-maligned Dak Prescott, who went on the road and beat 2 of the NFL's prodigal sons and quarterbacks in Carson Wentz and then Matt Ryan. Now they get to come home to the home cooking down in Texas. And I want to get your thoughts on, I feel for Alex Smith. This was his opportunity to help the Redskins fight for first place. But now they don't have him. But I want to get your thoughts on Dallas. They cannot afford to have a letdown. It's like when a dog is desperate, it tends to fight harder. They were desperate on the road. Now they get some home cooking. I hope they don't have too much home cooking, Big C, thinking they have a wounded animal coming in there with a backup quarterback for the Redskins. Your thoughts on Dallas? They have to stay up for this game. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, Charlton, they got to keep the same offensive formula that they had last week. Ezekiel Elliott has to touch the ball 25 to 30 times a game, Charlton, running and receiving. He is the cog of that offense. I mean, Dak Prescott can do what it's required to do to win a game in the NFL. I mean, and you know, if Dallas wins this game, the headline is going to be on Friday. Dak, what? You know, because he's been maligned all season long, Charlton.
Yeah.
Cowboys win this game, they're moving in the first place in the East.
Yeah.
You think about that. That would be twice in the last 3 years that Dak Prescott would have had Dallas in first place in the NFC East.
Yeah.
And so when people say they don't know whether he's a quality NFL quarterback, you know, his record doesn't speak for itself when it comes to the media. They find other reasons why.
Yeah.
You look at Dallas. I mean, not Dallas, but Washington. And you do feel sorry for Alex Smith.
Yeah.
You know, here it is. Your cousin that had been there could not have a winning record.
He's not my cousin.
And Alex Smith was 6-3
Yeah.
as a starter.
Yeah.
Well on the way of winning the Eastern Division for the Washington Redskins.
Yeah.
But now you're going to have Colt McCoy in the game, Charlton. Colt McCoy hasn't started a game since 2015 in the NFL. So he's going to be a little rusty. And if I'm Dallas Cowboys, and I don't know what Coach Jerry Jones is going to throw at him defensively, but I'm bringing everything at him every play. He's going to have to beat me throwing the ball. That's the bottom line. I'm going to take Adrian Peterson out of the game right away, and Colt McCoy is going to have to throw the ball.
You know, Big C, when I think about this series and I think about the history of this series, this is like, if you pull yourself back from what conference, this is like seeing USC play Notre Dame. It's been going on for decades, Big C. It's like watching, you know, two teams from different parts of the country. It's still ironic to see that Dallas, Texas is in an NFC East conference. They never realigned them. And when you think about this rival, I never forget the days back at RFK when they had the Hogs and they had that team against the Cowboys. I think about the days of Jurgensen. I think about the days of having for the Cowboys someone like it was Michael Irvin and Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith and Harper. That may have been the best Cowboy team ever. I know people can go back into Dallas Cowboys and say, what about the teams with Roger Staubach and Tony Dorsett? I want to get your thoughts. What would you say would be the best Dallas Cowboy team versus the best Washington Redskin team, whether it's Joe Theismann or Riggins? What would you match up? We just did that earlier for basketball, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you got to look at all those eras. And each one of those eras produced Super Bowl champions for those organizations. In the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s. Both of those organizations were able to produce Super Bowl champions, Charlton.
Right.
And so it's hard to compare. I mean, the group with the triplets, Aikman and Irvin and
Novacek and Smith.
You know, they had the best run because they did it over the shortest length of time.
Yeah.
But when you look at what the Redskins did, Charlton, they did it with three different quarterbacks. You know, the Cowboys did it with two different quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Redskins did it with three different quarterbacks. But each one of these organizations, Charlton, has their sound place in NFC history.
Yep.
But to have this rivalry that goes back to Thanksgiving, you always look back to the Cowboys and the Redskins. You know, when you went back to Pat Summerall and Tom Brookshire calling the game before John Madden came in to pair with Pat Summerall.
Pat Summerall, yep.
And you look at just some of the great plays over the years that were made in these games. You know, you think about Larry Brown and Billy Kilmer in the backfield for the Redskins with Charlie Taylor, you know, being at wide receiver. You think about Art Monk in years later on with Joe Theismann and John Riggins. You know, you think about the Fun Bunch, the receiver core they had with Doug Williams.
Yep.
I mean, this is an organization that over the years, Charlton, has put out some outstanding players, great defensive players. Dexter Manley, you know, being a great defensive end in that organization, Charlton, over the years. And this excellent players, the Dallas Cowboys, everybody knows America's team, the Doomsday defense, Charlton, that they had over the years. Ed Jones, Randy White, Harvey Martin, Charlton, Chuck Howley back in the days, you know, Jethro Pugh. these great players that they've had over the decades that have meant so much.
Yep.
Drew Pearson, one of the most underrated receivers in NFL history, playing with the Dallas Cowboys, caught the touchdown pass from Clint Longley back in 1974 when Roger Staubach had gotten injured, Charlton, and created a controversy at quarterback in Dallas. But over the years, they've been synonymous with Thanksgiving, Charlton, and it was great for the NFL to bring this back. And they even had the snow game, when Jimmy Johnson was coaching, and they had the Miami Dolphins, which felt weird. You got the Miami Dolphins playing in snow. And Leon Lett kicked that missed field goal that gave the Dolphins to win that game, a chance to win that game.
Yeah, I remember that game. He was crying in the end zone, actually crying in the locker room after because of what he had done and really hurt the team. But when I think about this is what it is. I remember just as a young boy waiting to see, and me growing up on the West Coast, seeing a team, Washington, D.C., and then you have the Dallas Cowboys that play in the old Texas Stadium. There was always something about that game that people plan their Thanksgiving dinner around watching that game, at least in my household on the West Coast, and that's really a great game. I'm glad that tradition is still there. I want to go to the nouveau riche NFL now. We have the Atlanta Falcons, and they really they wanted to set it up when the season began for Matt Ryan, the $150 million quarterback, against Drew Brees, a guy they were saying, well, maybe we don't need to renew his contract. He is getting a little bit gray around the chin, Big C. But I think Drew Brees, the older guy, is actually showing the younger guy how to play the quarterback position. I want to get your thoughts on seeing these two high-powered offenses, especially for the New Orleans Saints. And speaking about turkeys being deep fried down south, I think they're going to have some deep fried jambalaya after this game. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you think about this game, Charlton, and the New Orleans Saints having a 5-game lead in the division, 10 games into the season, you got a 5-game lead in your division.
Yep.
Just an outstanding performance by this team overall, offensively and defensively, Charlton. They've done everything that you can. And with the whipping that they put on the Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champions last week, that's the worst loss that a Super Bowl champion, Charlton, has ever had in the history of the NFL. And the New Orleans Saints put it on them. This is a team of destiny right now, Charlton. Drew Brees completing 80% of his passes. The defense is playing lights out because they limited the Eagles to only 7 points, and that's your big-time buddy Carson Wentz, the next superstar in the NFL, and created some displeasure in the locker room. Malcolm Jenkins calling out his teammates. This goes back to the preseason when Lane Johnson talked about we're going to have fun. I guess they're having fun right now getting the crap kicked out of them every week, Charles. That's what Lane Johnson would describe the offensive tackle for the Eagles. But the Atlanta Falcons, they've lost 2 heartbreakers back-to-back. They lost to Cleveland 2 weeks ago, Charlton. They just came off a heartbreaking last field goal loss to Dallas at home. Now they got to travel to New Orleans on a short week. This is like a college game, Charlton. When you talk about teams disliking each other, 2 cities disliking each other, that's New Orleans and Atlanta. You talk about the decibel level down in the Superdome, Charlton, is going to be off the charts.
And I think Mercedes-Benz sponsors both of them. So the question is, which one of those stadiums will Mercedes-Benz want to take their sponsorship off of after this game? After this game, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I guess one will be an S-class, Charlton, the other will be a C-class. Mercedes has so many classes, you got to go with the elite big vehicle that ever wins this game.
That's funny. They got the sponsorships fighting against each other this weekend. We touch us all fair and love and war. And just a couple of more thoughts, too. We're going to be taking Thanksgiving Day off to Big C's still trying to convince that turkey to go to sleep. He wants them as fresh as possible before he puts them in the oven, but that turkey just won't go to sleep yet, Big C. I think that's funny. I want to just touch on a few more games that are coming up for the NFL, and we'll get big into it on Friday when we come back from Thanksgiving holiday. Just quickly, Jacksonville's at Buffalo, Cleveland at Cincinnati, good game for the state of Ohio, New England at New York, and the New York Giants at Philadelphia. Big C, we might see Eli Manning on a 3-game winning streak. Philly seem to have lost their wings, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that would be a game for sore eyes when you think about it. Here's the Eagles that just drubbed the Giants twice last season, Charlton. And Eli Manning, as you said, could have this team on
Three-game winning streak. Yep.
Odell Beckham talked about them running the table and making the playoffs.
Yeah.
They won 2 games since he said that.
Yeah.
Did he have the right thing in mind? But when you look at how well they performed offensively, Charlton, especially the triplet of receivers that they have along with Barkley at running back, they made it easy for Eli Manning. They made a couple moves on the offensive line in Charlton. They got rid of a couple of people. The defense still needs some help. Look at the points that they gave up last week to Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And Tampa Bay keeps trying to give you points.
Yeah, Big C, is it fool's gold, though, in a serious note, when Eli came out to San Francisco and they got that win in San Francisco over a rookie quarterback, and people were saying, you know, it's like Eli had won 4 games because the media loves him so much. He really is America. I won't say America's darling, but he's the darling of New York, kind of like a New Day Broadway Joe. If he gets this win, because there were people saying they need to bench him, and we're part of that too. If they get this win at Philadelphia and see their brotherly love, would there be any foolishness for the New York Giants saying, you know what, we don't need to get rid of Eli, we don't even need a new quarterback, let's just look for a better offensive line? Could that be a mistake that could happen for them, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they have to draft for the future. When you look at the time that Eli has been in the league, I mean, 15 years is a long time for a quarterback. Eli has never played at an elite level in the NFL. You got to think about it. He's only 4 wins over 500 in his entire career.
Yeah.
So it's not like Eli has burned up the league since he's been around. He has some great talent around him that has allowed him to have some success, Charlton. But the Giants still have to look at their future as far as getting a quarterback early in the draft, whether it's their first or second round draft pick is something that they have to do.
Yeah.
But if they win this game, Charlton, think about it. They're only 2 games out of first place in the East by winning this game. If Dallas wins and the Giants win, they're only 2 games out of first place, and they still have to see each other, Charlton.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Big C. I look at San Francisco making that long trip over to Tampa Bay, and the 49ers, obviously, they have a lot of rebuilding to do. Garoppolo still has a chance if he really cares about the organization. He gets his money anyway. He could just go to the organization and say, look, John Lynch, I'm not doing you any good. I've never been a 500 quarterback anyway. I was the great white hype. Let me take some of that $40 million guaranteed or $37 million and restructure it. Pay me heavy on the back end after I make it performance-led in the same way they try to do to Colin Kaepernick. And don't think it's a wrong thing to ask. Don't think it's too unreasonable. This same organization asked Colin Kaepernick to take $4 million and have $8 million in performance incentives. Why not have, and he took it to the Super Bowl. Why not have Garoppolo take $4 million and give him that $33 million in incentives? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they want to make sure that the future of the franchise is comfortable, to let them know that they're behind him 100% of the way. We don't know what Garoppolo's ability will be when he comes back from this knee injury next year, Charlton. Will he have the same mobility? You know, what will be the structure of the 49ers at that point? But, you know, here it is. They're going down to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay loses this game to San Francisco. They need to cut their entire offense, period.
Yeah.
I mean, Jameis Winston needs to be gone because he is not the answer in Tampa Bay, Charlton. He threw a couple of interceptions last week and had a couple missed against the Giants.
Yeah.
He should have had 4 in the game.
Yeah.
So, you know, here's a quarterback, Charlton, that surely doesn't get it as long as he stays in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
They need to look to move him elsewhere, Charlton, to get him away from the people that he's accustomed to being around.
Well, speaking of 2 of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, 2 of the top in the NFC, and the last 2 African-American quarterbacks back-to-back, Seattle making that long trip to the East Coast to Carolina. Carolina, Cam Newton has to be kicking himself. I'm going to say something so stupid and so sinister, but it's what I hear. When they had the chance to go for 2 and they missed it, you know, there's a lot of gambling going on in the world of the sports universe. And you got a wide open guy, Big C. It's like, how do you miss the ocean when you're standing on the cliff? That was like the pass and a lot of rumbling I'm hearing. But you have Seattle having to just keep on grinding. They keep grinding, Big C. Pete Carroll, them good old boys, having to go play an early start on the East Coast. Does Carolina snap out of it, or does Seattle go in there and get a win, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you know, this is a game that Seattle can win, Charlton. They got to stick with the formula that they've been using. They got to keep running the ball, keep grinding it, because that takes a lot of pressure off of Russell Wilson. We've seen the inconsistency with Cam. Cam has a bright moment. Cam goes back to being the Cam that's like he's playing a game in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And he had a wide open receiver for that 2-point conversion. And I question him and I question the coach Rivera on that, Charlton.
Yep.
You're in the NFL. Kick the extra point, play for overtime.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, to go out there and in a situation like this where you're trying to stay in the division hunt, where you're chasing New Orleans and you're trying to stay ahead of Atlanta, Charlton, don't take opportunities away from your team.
Yep.
Seattle, has had 2 consecutive back-to-back real tough games with the Chargers and the Rams, Charlton.
Yep.
And now they're going to play another division leader, Charlton, a team that's in the top of their division also in Carolina. So this is when you talk about a team having a rough stretch of games, that's the Seattle Seahawks.
Well, speaking of rough, Big C, I know the Raiders got a win down in Arizona on a last-second field goal after John Gruden. And it's good to see when you look at people who are being honest. And I know maybe people say don't challenge a coach, but they've always been truculent relationships and coaches. But what I see when you look at the quarterbacking situation in Oakland, and I see Gruden have an argument with his quarterback, the guy that he's already thrown under the bus, but it helped them come out of some type of malaise. They at least got in a field goal situation with Carr being honest. Quit saying you love this guy. You know you don't like him. You're a Christian. He cusses a lot. Something doesn't mix. Oakland going into Baltimore. Jackson could have another big game. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they can. But this is a situation where the Raiders, that win that they had last week, as you said, against the Cardinals, a team that's been downtrodden all year long and struggling with a rookie quarterback. David Johnson was the best part of that team, and they didn't get him enough work.
No.
So, but when you look at the Raiders having to travel, Charlton, that's what's been their toughest plight, having to be on the road. And they haven't had a lot of success on the road. Playing the Cardinals, you're really on the West Coast. It's almost like a home game.
Yeah, yep, it is, Big C. So obviously they got to win. They got the 2 wins, and Gruden's happy. That's what you get, $100 million. You got 2 wins on the season, Big C, at Thanksgiving break. Arizona's at Los Angeles, the Chargers this time, so they'll have a short plane flight over into L.A. Pittsburgh at Denver. This was one time the AFC Championship game when you had Manning and also Elway playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It seems like they've been doing it every year. The Steelers up in Denver, they're the top team right now outside of the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC. I think they've even overtaken New England, Big C. Your thoughts on how much this is a must-win game for Pittsburgh, but they are going a mile high where the air might be a little bit thin. Give me your thoughts on Pittsburgh, Big C. Your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, they've always had a problem playing out there in Denver. The altitude, for some reason, affects that team. They come off a terrible loss last week, Charlton. Well, no, they won the game last week against Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And that was a surprise. But here's a team that, Mike Tomlin has rolling. I know it's to the dismay of Terry Bradshaw. He doesn't like to see Mike Tomlin win.
No.
But, he's a great coach, Charlton.
Yeah.
There's not many coaches in the NFL that can have the resume of a Mike Tomlin. And when you have this team playing like it is, I think they grew a lot. But coming from behind against Jacksonville, a team that throttled them 3 times last year, Charlton, to be able to fight through that and come up with a big victory. Connors was under concussion protocol this week, Charlton.
Yeah.
Their running game is what's in question going into this game.
And speaking of questions, not many questions about Andrew Luck, the Miami Dolphins at the Indianapolis Colts. And Luck's, maybe that surgery helped. Maybe his confidence. They got something going in the right direction. I think they're at home, of course, should be a win over Miami. But are you surprised? I think he has more touchdown passes in the NFL than anybody, and he really hasn't been able to push the ball that far downfield. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he's gotten better week after week. When you look at what he's been doing offensively, Charlton, he's got some great tight ends. So when you have an offense that's tight end laden, you don't have to push the ball down the field. You're throwing everything under 20 yards. And so they built the offense based on what his ability was coming back. And it's worked out and been successful. The defense has played better than what people think, Charlton. His offensive line has really improved. He's been sacked the least amount of times in a season of his professional career this year, Charlton.
Yeah.
So the Colts are getting better. I expect them to win this game against the Dolphins. Tannehill is supposed to get the start. He's been out the last 5 weeks, so that means he'll be rusty.
Well, speaking of rusty, I know everybody has their thoughts, but when I look at the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings coming up in this game, obviously the Packers are out of the playoffs. I mean, it would have to take a miracle of everybody falling down, but the Vikings still have hope. That Green Bay is at Minnesota. It's a game it's just in line for the Vikings to win with their better defense. But even a little bit of gossip, Big C. Aaron Rodgers was blasted on Twitter today by his brother Jordan and his dad for having a lack of sensitivity for his mother up in Northern California in the burn area. I don't know why they would put their family issues out for the media or anywhere in the sports universe. But your thoughts on that statement? I mean, everybody they get along, sometimes they don't. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's the last thing that you want to do is put your family in the media. Now, this is not the first time that Aaron's brother has done that. He was on a show several years ago called The Bachelor.
Yeah.
And where he wanted to blast his brother. He hasn't had the level of success in the NFL that his brother has, Charlton. And so a lot of times in families, that creates animosity with siblings and even other family members because you have the money and they don't have the money.
Yeah.
You know, Aaron Rodgers was in Green Bay. I mean, yes, he grew up in the Chico Group area of California, in the area where Paradise is, where they had the fire.
Yeah.
There wasn't much he could do, Charlton, physically. Just like anybody else, he wasn't a first responder.
No.
You know, he's 2/3 of the way across the country. And I don't know if, and I wouldn't even inject whether he spoke with his mother or not, Charlton.
Who knows?
You know, but you know, that's not for us to get into.
No.
You know, but I know that Aaron Rodgers came out today, Charlton, and donated $1 million to the relief efforts of that area, as well as State Farm Insurance came out and donated $1 million, Charlton, which is one of his major sponsors.
Yeah.
And the Green Bay Packers put forth $250,000.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard his brother saying he was putting up anything. You know? So his brother needed some attention trying to get another reality show. He spent some time on ESPN years ago, and he spent some time on The Bachelor.
Yeah.
So I guess for him to get back into television or even entertainment, he needed to go after his brother. Everybody sees Aaron. We see Aaron in an interview.
Yeah.
He doesn't show emotion in an interview.
No.
The only emotion he shows is when somebody doesn't want to run the route.
Yeah.
And he wanted run.
No, I think,
to say that somebody wouldn't be concerned about their mother, Charlton, I have a hard time believing that.
Yeah, I do. I think that's a low blow. Even if it's that's the case, then keep it in the family. But I thought Aaron Rodgers coming out putting up $1 million. It's either, you know, just put your money where your mouth is, and Aaron did that. We see Harbaugh might get his first win against Ohio State in the big game for the Big Ten or Big 19 conference, and that would be huge for Michigan, huge for Harbaugh. And for Urban Meyer, it might be his way out in the last Big Ten opportunity, Ohio State-Michigan game. If that happens, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, Michigan hasn't won a game against Ohio State with Harbaugh since 1986.
Yeah.
That's the last time that they beat Ohio State with Harbaugh. So it's been a run. But this is the game that everybody's been expecting for the 4 years since Harbaugh has been in Michigan for this game to matter. And this game matters expeditionally for both programs, Charlton. They're both coming in at 10-1. You know, Michigan is already in the Big Ten title game. But being in that game is meaningless, Charlton, if they cannot beat Ohio State, because they would be knocked out of playoff contention.
Yeah.
Ohio State is hoping to get in playoff contention with a big win over Michigan State.
Yeah.
But all the Ohio State's hopes, Charlton, lay on the arm of Dwayne Haskins, the quarterback.
Yeah.
He has carried this team, Charlton, week in, week out. I mean, they gave up 51 points, I believe, last week to Maryland.
Yeah.
So that defense is really struggling.
Yeah.
Although this is the best offense that Michigan will face all year long also. They're number one in offense, they're number one in defense in the Big 10, Big 20 conference, whatever it is. Michigan is, Charlton. But, you know, Ohio State is right behind them offensively, but they can score. But that defense is suspect for Ohio State. That could be their Achilles heel, Charlton.
Yeah, and last story, Big C. Are you still hyped about going over to your neighbors and watching the Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson golf tournament? They're rubbing I guess $250,000 and $300,000 for who wins the first hole. I know maybe this is just my thought. Those are two great golfers, but right now a lot of people are struggling. I know they say the economy's great. Maybe they could have done this for charity, where they would give that money for charity, maybe to the fire victims in California, as opposed to putting money in their own pockets. Of course, no one has to work for free. They're already worth, $100 million for maybe Phil. Tiger's worth $1 billion. Maybe they could take that $10 million purse and give that money to charity, or just, is it like keep my nose out of their business, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, we don't know all the workings of where the finances are going to, whether it's a charity or whatever this event. I mean, it would be easy to say that, but Charlton, you'd have to say that about every athlete out there that's competing, the NBA, the NFL, hockey, that you should take your paycheck this week and donate it. We just saw Aaron Rodgers donate $1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why we have FEMA and the federal government, Charlton, also because that's what our tax money goes to.
Yeah.
But, if you're going to call on athletes to donate their purses,
Corporate America,
you have to call on America to donate their purses. Just like Aaron Rodgers' brother Jordan wanted to call him out. He said, okay, I'm donating $1 million. How much are you going to donate?
Yeah.
We probably won't hear anything else from Jordan any longer.
A tweet.
But, these events were set up prior to this devastation that goes on, Charlton. And when you look at the devastation that goes on in America every day, this just happened to be a catastrophic one that polarized the state of California.
Yeah.
These things happen in every state every day.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to go to athletes to be the bailout.
Yeah.
Where are the owners? Where are the networks? I mean, because there's somebody that's putting up the $10 million for this, Charlton.
Yeah. Well,
whoever put up the $10 million for this event to occur, Charlton, could also put up $10 million in disaster relief.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have to always call on athletes whenever there's a tragedy in this country, just like in Houston. It was a great feat done by J.J. Watt and the rest of the sports community down there in the hurricane to raise $37 million, Charlton.
That's
but where's our federal government in time of need? Cut the red tape that people have to go through and be questioned. I don't have my home anymore. It's gone. I don't have any paperwork at all burned up in the home.
Yeah.
So when you have to have documentation, just like in voting, you do the American people an injustice. They go through hardships and say, well, you have to prove this. Well, come on out here to where the house used to be and let me show it to you.
Yeah, that's
a
very good point. Yeah, very good point. Big C, in closing, I just want to say what I'm grateful for this great Thanksgiving holiday coming up, this great Thanksgiving Day weekend. I'm grateful for family. I'm grateful for a healthy family. I'm grateful for having health. I'm grateful for having opportunity to just speak my mind on the Big C Sports Show. And I'm grateful for everybody who's trying to do something better in life and reach out to help other people on the way up. Big C, your thoughts on what you're grateful for, your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, mine is a little different. I'm grateful for everything that life brings to us, good, bad, and indifferent. I'm grateful to have some kind of health left in my life. But I'm grateful for one thing, Charlton. We had a heinous situation that occurred in the world of sports at Michigan State with the gymnastics, the ladies gymnastic team. And I'm very thankful for the police department and the investigative services to charge former Michigan State President Laura K. Smith with four counts, Charlton, 2 of them felony.
Yeah.
For hiding and abating in sexual abuse that she knew about, Charlton. I'm grateful for that, for law enforcement not just letting somebody escape because they were wrong in covering this and charging in letting so much pain and abuse happen to young ladies in America, Charlton. Yeah. I'm grateful for law enforcement.
Well, I appreciate that very much. And for anybody going through something, it's good to have someone there to help you out. For all the people in California and people all over this country going through something, just enjoy, hopefully, as much as you can, a great Thanksgiving. And hopefully you can have a better holiday season coming up. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men rumble, Big C. What are you looking forward to in this sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I'm going to have to eat lightly so I don't have an L tryptophan coma tomorrow so that I can see all these great college and professional football games, Charlton, and basketball games. I'm just grateful for having an opportunity to be with family, to enjoy this wonderful day that comes around once a year, Charlton, of gluttony in America. And I'm wishing hope, health, and prosperity to everyone.
Amen to that, Big C. And we're wishing for everybody, too. And you can always listen to every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the Big C Sports Net, with the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911. Because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports Show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.